Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing fine and are taking care of yourselves. My name is Kanika Tandon and I am here with the video of class 8th English 2nd. Today I am going to upload two videos of the same chapters, in which in the first video I will be completing the explanation part of the chapter, and in video number 2 I will be giving you the question answers and the exercise of the same chapter. So in this video I'll be explaining you the chapter, and in the next video I'll be giving you the exercise. Good day, said Monsieur Defarge, looking down at the white-haired man bent down over shoe. The man raised his head for a moment and answered in a very faint voice, "Good day. You are still hard at work, I see." Now, what is the meaning of Monsieur here? Monsieur is actually a French word for Mr. Okay, so Defarge is looking at the man whose hair is actually white, and he is a little bent over the shoes and doing some kind of work. So he see that and he wishes him good day, and he says that he is still hard at work. After a long silence, the man lifted his head for another moment and replied, "Yes, I am working." The faintness of his voice was not just the faintness of the physical weakness, it was also the faintness of a man who had been alone and had not spoken to anyone in a long time. It was like the weak echo of the sound made long ago. It was like a once beautiful color faded away into the light strain that could hardly be seen. It was like the voice of a tired traveler who had lost his way in the wilderness. So now this paragraph is talking about Mr. Dr. Manetti only, because since he was in prison for 18 long years, he had not spoken to anybody in those years. So he speaks a little less, but he was very weak mentally as well as physically, also emotionally. So this paragraph tells us the condition of a man who has been in the prison for 18 years. The white-haired man continued to work silently for a few minutes. Then he looked up again with his sorrowful, tired eyes in the dull, mechanical way, not with any interest or curiosity. "I want," said Defarge, looking at the shoemaker, "to let in more light here. You can bear a little more." Okay, so he used to live in a very dark room because he was out from a prison. So Mr. Defarge wanted to put some more light in Dr. Manetti's room. The shoemaker stopped his work, looked for a vacant air of listening at the floor on one side of him, then similarly at the floor on the other side of him, then upward at the speaker. "What did you say?" "You can bear a little more light. I must bear it if you let it in." Defarge opened the half door a little further. A broad ray of light fell into the garret and showed the workman with an unfinished shoe upon his lap, pausing in his labor. So what happens? Mr. Defarge actually opens the light, and then he sees that he has been this old man sees, that is Dr. Manetti, sees that he has been mending a shoes, but one shoe is not yet mended and it is kept on his lap. His few common tools and various scraps of leather were at his feet and on his bench. He had a white beard, raggedly cut but not very long, a hollow face and very bright eyes. His yellow rags of shirt lay open at her throat and showed his body to be withered and worn. He was so weak and frail that when he put up in a hand between his eyes and light, even the bones of his hand seemed transparent. So this was the condition of Dr. Manetti while living in the prison. "Are you going to finish that pair of shoes today?" asked Defarge as he signaled to Mr. Lorry to come forward. "What did you say? Do you mean to finish that pair of shoes today?" "I supposed so. I don't know." So now he actually doesn't understand what the person standing in front is speaking, because he has lost the either his mind is not at its place, or he had realized that he has gotten a listening problem. Now Mr. Defarge has also signaled Mr. Lorry to come forward into the room. And why has Mr. Lorry come? He has come to meet Dr. Manetti and her daughter. Coming on to the next page, But the question reminded him of his work and he bent over it again. Mr. Lorry came silently forward, leaving Lucy next to the door of the little room. "You have a visitor, you see," said Monsieur Defarge. So Mr. Defarge tells Dr. Minetti that he has a visitor. "What did you say?" "Here is a visitor," repeated Monsieur Defarge. So he actually does not understand the question in one go. So he asks it again. The shoemaker looked up as before, but without removing a hand from his work. "Come," said Defarge. Here is Monsieur, who knows a well-made shoe when he sees one. Show him the shoe you are working at. Take it, Monsieur." Okay, so Defarge says that he is one of a good shoemaker and he knows when the shoe has been made good or not. Mr. Lorry took it in his hand. "Tell Monsieur what kind of a shoe it is and the maker's name." There was a longer pause than usual before the shoemaker replied, "I forgot what it was you asked me." "What did you say?" So he has started to lose his memory and he does not understand what has been spoken to him. "I said, couldn't you describe the kind of shoe for Monsieur information?" So he asks him again to tell him the details of the shoe that you are making. "It is a lady's shoe. It is young ladies' walking shoe," said the man. "And the maker's name?" said Defarge. Now that he had no work to hold on, the man laid the knuckles of the right hand in the hollow of his left hand, and then knuckles of the left hand in the hollow of the right hand, and then passed a hand across his beard chin. "Did you ask me for my name?" "Assuredly I did. 105 North Tar. Is that all?" 105 North Tar. So what happened? Now he has asked the name from the shoemaker, and since he has kind of a memory loss, a problem of losing memory, he asked whether somebody had asked him the his name, and he actually does not remember his name, so he tells his name as 105 North Tar. With a deep sigh, he began to work again until the silence was again broken. "You are not a shoemaker by trade," said Mr. Lorry, looking straight at him. Okay, so he knew he was a doctor, so he said that you are not a shoemaker. The tired, sorrowful eyes turned to Mr. Lorry. "I am not a shoemaker by trade?" He does not know this, so he's asking, "Am I not a shoemaker by trade?" "No, I was not a shoemaker by trade. I learnt it here. I taught myself. I asked permission to learn to do something." So he said that, okay, I was not a shoemaker by trade. So in the prison, I actually learned it and taught it myself. The man's voice faded away. He sat quietly, gazing at the floor. Then slowly, as if waking from a sleep, he looked up again and continued speaking in a low voice. So he realized that, okay, he has actually he actually has some work to do. So he started to continue with his work. Coming on to the next page. "I asked leave to teach myself, and I got it with much difficulty after a long while. I have made shoes ever since." So he asked that, okay, he has taught it himself, and when he was asking for the permission, he got it with very difficulty. Then he held out his hand for the shoe that had been taken from him. "Monsieur Minetti, do you remember nothing of me?" asked Mr. Lorry. And what happened now? Mr. Lorry has taken the shoe from Dr. Minetti's hand and asked him whether he remembers him or not. The shoe dropped to the ground and he sat looking fixedly at the questioner. And now Dr. Minetti is actually looking at the questioner in a very in such a way that it is seen that somebody is trying to remember someone. "Monsieur Minetti," Mr. Lorry continued, "do you remember nothing of this man? Look at him, look at me. Is there no old banker, no old business, no old servant, no old time rising in your mind, Monsieur Minetti?" Now Mr. Lorry actually asked him whether it does not ring any bell or bells or anything, that he remembers nothing, that he could be a old banker, old businessman, old friend or somebody. As the captive of many years sat looking fixedly by turns at Mr. Lorry and at Defarge, some long forgotten memories seemed to gradually force themselves through the black mist that had fallen on him. But they were soon clouded over, and then they were gone. A gloomy darkness fell on him again. With a deep long sigh, he took the shoe up and resumed his work. So since he was living in the prison for a very long time, he has actually lost all of his memory. And then he did not say anything and resumed his work. He started to do his work again. Lucy moved from the wall of the garret very near and bench on which he sat. Not a word was spoken, not a sound was made. She stood like a bright spirit beside him, and he bent over his work. Then, as he reached down to pick up an awl, his eyes caught the skirt of her dress. He raised them and saw her face. And what happened? So this Lucy also came into the room and stood at the corner. So as he was bending down to pick up a tool to mend his shoes, he saw her dress, and then he saw her face. He stared at her with a startled look, and after a while his lips began to form some words, though no sound proceeded from them. And what happened? So he started to stare at her, and then he wanted to say something, but the voice could not come out. By degrees, in the pause of his quick and labored breathing, he whispered, "What is this? Who are you?" So now he asked Lucy, "Who is she?" To overcome with emotions to be able to speak, she sat down on the bench beside him. He laid the awl down softly, and he sat staring at her. So what happened? She wanted to talk to him, so she sat in front of him, and then he kept his tool from by which he was mending his shoes aside and talked and wanted to talk to her, but he stared at her continuously. Her golden hair, which she wore in long curls, had been hurriedly pushed aside and fell down over her neck. Advancing his hand, little by little, he took it up and looked at it. "What is your name, my gentle angel?" Lucy fell upon her knees before him and put her hand in his, like it is shown in the picture. So now he is asking her that who she was. So she got a little sentimental, and then she sat in front of him holding his hand to talk to him. Now coming to the next page. "Oh sir, and at another time you shall know my name, and who my mother was, and who my father, and how I never knew this hard history. But I cannot tell you this time, I cannot tell you here. All that I may tell you here and now is that your agony is over, and that I have come here to take you from it. And then we go to England to be at peace and rest. I pray to you to bless me, oh my dear father." His cold white head mingled with her radiant yellow hair, which warmed and lighted it as though it were the light of freedom shining on him. So when he asked him who she was, Lucy actually denied to tell him anything. She just wanted to let him know that she will tell him who her mother was, who she was, and who her father was, but only after taking her away from Paris to England, where they can live together and take care of her father, because all of his agony is over, as he has got his daughter back. So what happens after this? The old man's cold head mingled with radiant yellow hair, which warmed and light as though it was a light of freedom. And then Dr. Manetti felt a little free. So this was the story, and I hope that you all have understood. I request you to please complete the question answers and the exercise of this chapter from my next video. Thank you.